So today we are working on solving equations that have variables on both sides. This is another quick check. So if we look at this first problem, it is an equation because there's an equal sign. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my line down the equal sign. Whoops. Actually, I'm going to write this bigger because that's really small for me. Okay, so I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign, and then I'm going to find my letter. And you know I like to box off my letter. So in this case, I notice that I have 7 R's on one side and 2 R's on the other. When I solve an equation, my ultimate goal is to get a letter on one side and the numbers on the other. We can't have letters on both sides. We need to move them to the same side. The way I like to do this is I like to get rid of my smallest one. That way I end up with a positive number with my letter. So if I look at 7 R's and 2 R's, 2R is smaller. So I'm going to get rid of it. And right now it's a positive 2R. I'm adding it. So if I want to get rid of it, the opposite would be to subtract it. So I'm going to subtract 2 R's from each side. That's going to make this cancel because 2R take away 2R is nothing. I'm just going to bring the 18 straight down. And over here, I'm going to simplify it. So 7 R's take away 2 R's would leave me with 5 R's. The negative 2 just comes straight down. All right, I still like to box off that letter because that's just a visual cue for me to remember to get rid of whatever else is on the same side that's not in the box. So right now I need to get rid of a negative 2. The opposite of subtracting would be to add. So I'm going to add 2 to each side. The 5R will come straight down. And 18 plus 2 is 20. I'm just going to simplify that. And then I'm still trying to get this R by itself, so I need to get rid of the 5. And right now it's 5 times R. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide each side by 5 and then simplify. And 20 divided by 5 is 4. Now please keep in mind, I know that you probably know this by now, but just remember that I do change the numbers. So don't just go to your quiz and choose 4. Like make sure you actually solve your quiz questions. All right, so let's take a look at this one. I'm going to write it bigger again. I should have made these bigger. Sorry, y'all. Okay, first thing I always do is draw my line down the equal sign and box off my letters. Now remember, when you box letters, you want to keep the number and the sign in front of it. But over here, I don't have a number. Anytime you don't see a number, you put a 1 there. And now since I have them on both sides, I need to get rid of one of them. And I always like to get rid of the smallest one. Negative 1x is smaller than 5x's, so I'm going to get rid of negative 1x. Since I'm subtracting 1x, the opposite would be to add 1x to each side. And then I'm going to simplify. These would cancel. 5x's plus 1x would give me 6x's. Bring down the 12 and bring down the 18. Okay, I'm still going to box off that letter. And that's going to give me a visual cue of what to get rid of. I got to get rid of the negative 12. The positive 12. Since we're adding, I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to make minus 12 or negative 12 on each side. 12 minus 12 is 0. That cancels. I'm going to bring my 6x straight down. And I'm going to simplify over here. 18 minus 12 is 6. Remember, I'm still trying to get the x by itself. Right now, I need to get rid of this 6. And since I have 6 times x, the opposite would be to divide. So I'm going to divide each side by 6. That would cancel. And 6 divided by 6 is 1. That should be my solution. All right, so for this one, we have 12x minus 3 equals 15x plus 18. I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign, and I'm going to box off those letters. They are on opposite sides, so I need to make sure that I get rid of it. And I always like to get rid of the smallest one. You don't have to do it that way. That's just what I like to do because I like to deal with positive numbers. So in this case, the 12x is smaller than the 15x. So I'm going to get rid of 12x. Since it's positive 12x, I'm going to subtract it from each side. That would cancel here, and I would just bring the negative 3 straight down. 15x's minus 12x's would give me 3x's. and then I'm going to bring the 18 straight down. Okay, I'm still going to find my letter and box it off. And then I'm going to ask myself, what is on the same side as the letter that I need to get rid of? And in this case, I need to get rid of this 18. And right now it's a positive 18, so I'm going to subtract 18 from each side. Bring this straight down. And -3 plus -18, or -3 minus 18, would be a -21. Now remember, we're still trying to get the x by itself. Right now you have 3 times x. The opposite would be to divide. So I'm going to divide each side by 3. And x will equal -7. Now for some people, they always want their x's on this side. If that's you, if you just like to do that, you could have started this problem by subtracting 15x from each side and solved it from there. But just make sure that you end up with your x's on one side and your numbers on the other. All right, so for this one, we're going to go ahead and draw our line down the equal sign and box off our letters. We have a 6y and a 4y. And they're on different sides. If they were on the same side of the equals, then you would just combine them. But since they're on different sides, you have to do opposite operations. So I'm going to get rid of my smallest one, which is 4y. And I'm going to get rid of it by subtracting 4y from each side. That will cancel. 6y's minus 4y's is 2y's. Bring down my -8. Bring down my 16. I'm still going to box off that letter, because that helps me see what to get rid of next. So I need to get rid of the -8. The opposite of -8 is to add 8. Bring down my 2y. 16 plus 8 is 22, I think. Nope, 24. And then we still need to get the y by itself, so we have to get rid of this 2. Right now we're timesing by 2, so the opposite would be to divide by 2. And y would equal 12. All right, ooh, this is a fun one. I usually call things in math fun when they look a little bit difficult, so don't freak out. We'll feel so proud when we get it right at the very end, because it'll take an extra step. So just like always, I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign. And I am going to find my letters, and you can box them off if you want to. But just remember always, like when you think back, we got to take care of these parentheses first. I want to get rid of the parentheses. The parentheses are messing me up. So I'm going to take the number on the outside, and it's multiplying 3 times all of this. So I need to make sure that I distribute the 3 to each of those. So I need to distribute the 3 times the x and the 3 times the -4. And when we hear distributive property, I always think of a mailman who distributes mail. This is the neighborhood here, and this is the mailman, and he's not going to just go into the neighborhood and just distribute mail to the first person. He has to distribute mail to everybody. So make sure that you distribute it to both or all 3 or however many are in the parentheses. Make sure you distribute to everybody. Okay, so I've taken care of the parentheses. That was the first step. And now I'm going to figure out where my letters are. They're on opposite sides, which means I need to do opposite operations to get rid of one of them. I like to get rid of my smallest, and since 2x is smaller than 3x, I'm going to get rid of this positive 2x by subtracting 2x's from each side. 3x minus 2x is 1x, and then I'm just going to bring everything else down. Still going to box off that letter, because that helps me see what I need to get rid of. So I need to get rid of the -12. So I'm going to do the opposite by adding 12 to each side. Bring the 1x straight down. 1x equals 16. Now, if the 1 in front of the x bothers you, if you want the x to be completely by itself, you can divide each side by 1. And that would cancel, leaving you with x equals 16. But anytime you see an x, there's actually a 1 hidden in front of there, whether you see it or not. So you could have stopped this step here, or you could have kept going, but x equals 16. Okay, Jamie opened a savings account with $595.25. Every week she withdraws $27.50 from her account. Steve opened a savings account with $174.25. every week he deposits $23.70 into his account. In about how many weeks will their savings be in the bank be equal? Choose the most reasonable estimate. All right, so let's see what we got going on here. Jamie has this much to start, and every week she withdraws this much. Now, withdrawals means that we're taking it away. So in math, that would be subtraction. So I'm going to go ahead and write that out. Jamie starts with this much, and she subtracts $27.50 each week. So we can give that a letter like W for week. Give it X if you want to, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to look at Steve. Steve starts out with this much, so he doesn't start out with as much. But every week he deposits this much. And remember, deposits in math or in banking is when you add money to your account. So we're going to be using a plus sign. We're going to be adding $23.70 per week. So I'm going to give that a letter. And we want to know, in how many weeks will their savings account be equal? So I'm going to throw an equal sign in the middle there. And then I'm going to solve this for letter W because I want to know in how many weeks. So here we go. I'm going to find my W's. They're on opposite sides, so I'm going to need to get rid of one of them by doing an opposite operation. I like to get rid of my smallest one, so I'm going to get rid of negative $27.50 by doing the opposite, or adding $27.50 W to each side. Over here, those would cancel. I'm going to bring this number straight down. And then I'm going to bring this number straight down, and I'm going to add those together. And I'm going to do a calculator for that. And I got 51.20 per week, or still have that W there. So I'm still trying to get the W by itself, which means I need to get rid of this number. Right now this is a positive number, so I'm going to get rid of it by subtracting it. That will cancel. Let's see, 595.25 minus 147.25. Oh, nice pretty number. And I'm just bringing this straight down. And then I'm still trying to get the W by itself. Right now we have 51.20 times W, so the opposite would be to divide. Division is usually your last step of an equation. I don't know if you've noticed that or not yet, but let's see, there we go. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, W equals, and I'm just going to divide this in my calculator. And I get 8.75 weeks. Now remember, it said, what is the most reasonable estimate? So we want to know about how many weeks. So 8.75 would be the closest to like 9 weeks. So in approximately 9 weeks, they would have the same amount. All right, one last problem. Mr. Herman wrote a check for his 10-year-old daughter's entrance fee to an amusement park. Mr. Koloski wrote a check for her twin 10-year-old sons for the same entrance fee to the same park. The checking account starting balance was $1,540.30 for Mr. Herman and $1,615.55 for Mrs. Koloski. But after they wrote their checks, their balances were the same. What amount did Herman write in his checkbook for the entrance fee? And remember that a debit is written as a negative number. All right, let's write this out. Okay, so I'm running really low on time, so I might be pausing the video some and adding work. But here's what we got so far. We have Mr. Herman's amount, and he is taking away one entrance fee from his bank account because he only has one daughter. And then we have Mrs. Koloski's amount, and she has twin daughters, so she's subtracting off 2 entrance fees, and I just let the entrance fee be letter X. And now I'm going to solve it. In this first step, I added 2 X's to each side, and I'm simplified it down to this. And then in the next step, I needed to get rid of this number, so I subtracted it from each side, and I'm left with 1X, or one ticket, is $75.25. So remember that a debit is written as a negative number, so for each entrance fee, they would take away $75.25 from their account. I hope this helps. Good luck.